Hi everyone, welcome to THT, and today I would like to show you my Kazuda yellow deck list. I've made a lot of improvement. I've been working a lot on the list since the first draft that I've shown you in my series of 4 deck lists for the new set. This time around I had a lot more time to tweak the list, to test it against a wide variety of different decks, and I can tell you how well the deck is positioned in the current meta and what is, in my opinion, the best build to get the best out of Kazuda, and also in which kind of meta, in which kind of circumstances should you consider bring this deck to a tournament. So before we start this video is sponsored by Card Market, the biggest marketplace to buy and sell Star Wars Unlimited card in Europe. I also wanted to let you know that we have officially opened our merch shop for Team Enigma. So if you don't know what Team Enigma is, it is the team, a group of friends that have gathered to play Star Wars Unlimited, and our objective is to try to be as competitive as possible. If you wonder what this logo represents, it is basically sort of the entire idea of the team is that we are effectively trying to solve an enigma, just like the decoding machine from Second World War that was decoded by the Polish and the British, and trying to kind of find the code, cracking the code. And for us, kind of solving the meta and trying to be competitive players, we're trying to kind of solve the meta. We're trying to understand what is the best deck to play. We're trying to solve the enigma of the meta, and this is what this represents. It's sort of like a futuristic enigma machine. Has a sort of Star Wars nods that you can see here that R2 would be able to put as a little thing and then turn it around. So it's a futuristic version of the Enigma machine, sort of a little bit Star Warsy as well. And this is kind of like this is all of our merch. So you can see, I will put in the comments below the link to the shop. As you can see, you can buy t-shirts of different colors. We have tote bags, we have caps, we have stickers, and obviously supporting buying anything from this shop is a little bit a portion of the benefit will be serving, of course, our team in order to finance our trips to the upcoming Galactic Championships, where we're going to be trying to compete, and we're going to try to represent Europe and try to make sure that we can compete with the Americans. So if you want to support our team, if you want to support our effort, and we also want to support all the content that we produce between the Soup Racers and what we do here on Thor Hot Takes, then this is a great way to support the channel. So here's the list. As you can see, there's quite a few changes compared to the previous iteration of the deck that I've shown you. So I think one of the main big takeaways that I had in the Kazuda yellow is to have a deck that is capable of being flexible. Something that is very powerful with Kazuda is when you can open up in space and play some pilots to put a ton of pressure on the opponent. But if your space unit gets dealt with, then you're in a lot of trouble. So having the possibility to kind of switch to the ground when possible is something that I find very valuable, and this is why I kind of shifted the deck to be a bit more balanced between the ground and the space. So if you guys never came across Kazuda deck, so this deck is very much what we call the tempo deck. So it's a deck that is trying to stick some very efficient threat early on in the game, and then use a variety of different removal to kind of buy itself time and deal damage at the same time. So if you compare this to a standard aggro decks are very linear, very not interactive. They're just trying to hit you. This deck is obviously very aggressive, and it's obviously primarily an aggressive deck, but it has loads of ways to interact with the opponents. It has a hand disruption, it has bounce, it has exhaust effects that can allow you to buy out yourself some time so your units can do the job. So Kazuda is a very really good tempo leader because he's obviously on yellow, so he can play double yellow, which is the best color combination for tempo decks in general, and he deploys very early on, which is great for an aggressive deck. So this list, of course, emphasizes on the double yellow, which allows them to play a wide variety of double yellow cards, which are extremely powerful. The best ones, obviously, Cunnings and the Mandalorian, which we'll go over. But there's also other great cards like Cantina Bouncer and the New Adventures, as well as the Body Rook, which is one of the best sideboard cards against control you could possibly think of. So there's a lot of reason to be playing yellow, even though for now the red version has been more popular. So I think both have their advantages and inconvenience. I think the double yellow one is closer to my playstyle of being a bit more interactive, and I think it's a deck that is more difficult to pilot, but if piloted well, can yield better results. So talking about my specific version here, so the first thing that is going to jump to your mind is the amount of 1-drops that I'm playing. So one of the big weaknesses of my previous version of the deck is like the turn 1 play were not very powerful unless you are opening up with Fireball and your opponent doesn't find an answer. So I much prefer personally play loads of 1-drops, as double 1-drop opening is, in my opinion, one of the strongest opening you can make in a lot of cases. And this version can do this very consistently because we are pretty much playing 11 1-drops in this specific version. We have the R2, we got the Leia, we can exhaust a resource. So it's basically can be played as a 2/2 for 1, and then you can play a Turncoat, a Greedo, or an R2D2 alongside it. So some of the best 1-drops in the game. So that's very, very nice. And then obviously, of course, we got lots of cards that have downsides that can be turned off by Kazuda, like the Fireball, Contacted Hunter that becomes extremely efficient cards, and also the Stolen ATLer. Usually on turn 2, we're going to try to stick a space unit, whether it's a Falcon that we can also turn off the inconvenience of, and all a Stolen ATLer that we can turn off as well. And then from that point on, we're going to go for turn 3, where we're going to be deploying our leader, preferably on the space unit, even though it's not mandatory, it can deploy on the ground just fine. And then we're going to be putting lots of pressure by playing a 4-drops, playing a Cunning, or even playing a 3-drop plus a 1-drop, or putting a lot of pressure on your opponent that way. And then we're just going to control the game from there, balance the opponent, try to finish it off with the many finishes we have in the deck, the Surprise Strikes, the DL44 Blasters, the Han Solo, loads of ways to deal immediate damage. The deck also plays a lot of Smuggle, which is very useful because obviously with all the 1-drops we play, we do empty our hands pretty quickly. So having options to have a lot of Smuggles is very helpful. So we got the Million Falcon, which is a great space, very large space threats that we can play if we ever run out of gas. We got we have the Blaster, and we also have the L337. So all this is very useful when we run out of gas, which can happen, even though this deck can stop resourcing around 6 resources, so it stops resources relatively early on, which means that we don't often do so, but it's always nice to have additional options. So it's really nice. So it has loads of ways to finish the game with all the Surprise Strikes, unit that comes into play ready, that puts loads of pressure on the opponent, and loads of ways to interact with threats. We got the Waylays, we got the counter bouncers, anything that comes in our way that is annoying, we can just bounce it. And we can even stop events using Kira or Ahsoka. We can kind of like discard the opponent's key cards to try to prevent them from playing them. So there's some disruptions. And it's a very flexible deck because we got Smuggle cards, we got cards that can be played as units or as pilots. It's a very, very difficult deck to play, so be warned, but it's a very fun deck to play because it always has a lot of different options available to it, a lot of different ways to use every card. So Leia can be used as a way to exhaust enemy units or a way to unexhaust your own cards. All the pilots can be played as units, all pilots. We have, of course, our the Cunning, which is extremely modular, and a New Adventures, which is also a very modular card. So let's go into the card-by-card analysis now, starting off with the leader, Kazuda. So why is Kazuda a very good leader? So Kazuda is a very good leader because obviously his ability allows us to basically blank one of our units and turn off all the negative ability you might have. And we play a significant amount of units with very significant downside, and basically Kazuda allows us to play a bunch of different cards which normally would not be very good, but by turning off the downside, turning them into extremely efficient cards and very powerful. So and this ability does not take up any action. It can use it and then literally just take the initiative or make another play after that. So that's really strong. The other strong thing about Kazuda is obviously the fact that he can be played as a leader for 2-5, or he can be played as a leader upgrades for +3/+3. The fact that he can be played both is not bad as a leader. Like 2-5 4 is completely acceptable as far as deployment goes, and obviously he's better as a pilot leaders. But if you are playing a deck that has some really good answers to pilot leaders, or if you simply don't have any space units, then you can just simply play it on the ground. So I advise basically against control, against anybody you might expect is playing bamboozle, or against anybody, or if you don't have space unit, then you deploy on the ground, basically. And any other case, you try to deploy in space and put loads of pressure on the opponent with a +3/+3. So that's just a very good leader because he has a very impactful leader's ability, allows us to play lots of cards that you wouldn't be able to play otherwise, and he has a very, very impactful leader deploy as well. So starting off now with the 1-drops. So the 1-drops, we're gonna start with the Greedo. Greedo's the best 1-drop in the game. So obviously there's a lot of pings in the meta, so there's situations where playing Greedo is not ideal. But in any other case, it's a great card. I think that if you go double 1-drop opening and let's say one of your unit doesn't get if your Greedo gets dealt with, that's fine. The other unit can just attack, and as long as you're putting pressure right from the get-go and you get to attack right from the get-go, it's a pretty good thing. So yeah, obviously Greedos are great, and as I said, in this color combination, we don't have access to amazing 2-drops. So the double 1-drop opening is a very, very good opening for the deck. That's going to put the opponent in a lot of trouble. And we have quite a good odds of making it happen, thanks to Greedo, notably. So, next we R2D2. So R2D2 is kind of the opposite of Greedo, as being a 1-drop that doesn't put nearly as much pressure, but it's very sticky. It's really good against to soak up some the damage from the Cat Bane. Very good to soak up the damage from the indirect damage as well. It also can be played as a pilot, which is very useful to basically protect our key units against certain breakpoints. So let's say you are you have your Minion Falcon. Opponents can have a way to deal 4 damage to it. Next turn with a open fire, you can play R2D2 on it, and because it doesn't count, you can still play like an initial pilot on it. Something to worth noticing though is like, yes, you can play multiple pilots if R2D2 is on it. However, if R2D2 is already on a unit, you cannot deploy your leader, because one of the conditions of the pilot leader is to deploy on a vehicle that doesn't have a pilot on it. In this case, the ability of R2 doesn't make a difference. So if you want to play R2 and Kazuda on the same unit, you have to first play Kazuda and then play the upgrade the R2 afterwards. You cannot do it the other way around. So that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, R2D2 is very flexible, very nice. The piloting is very relevant, and then you get yourself a 1/4 unit that can soak out damage. It is going to be sticky. You can put a DR44 blasters on it later on to make it more impactful. So Counterton Coat is the best possible 1-drop for the deck, because we can turn off the bounty using our Kazuda leader, and then we can just literally play. It becomes like a vehicle that we can put like a pilot on it, which we play quite a few of. So that is very, very useful. Yeah, having some space presence, very good stat for the cost. So yeah, Counterton Code is just a great card for the deck, for all those reasons. Then we got Leia. Leia is very nice because she's quite flexible. She's quite good in later stage of the game, as she puts a threat on the board, a body that we can put DR44 blaster on it. And then early on the game, she's basically a 1-drop, because we can play her, unexhaust one of our resources, so we can increase our chance to go for double 1-drop opening. It's really, really useful. Then we get R337. It's a classic kind of a 2/2 shielded units. The smuggle is very relevant in this deck. When we run out of threat, it's a sticky threat. We can put a blaster on it. And he has the ability to rescue our own units, which can be useful, notably against Cat Bane. Cat Bane nowadays love to play those capture cards, like obviously the Cat Bane unit, but also the Relentless Pursuit. So R337. So don't forget the rescue ability. It can be quite relevant against Cat Bane. Moving on, we got Fireball, which is obviously the best possible 2-drop for the deck. It's a 3/3 for 2 in space, which is unheard of, and it also has Ambush, which is extremely relevant if you're playing against a space aggro deck, something like a Sabine or anything that just plays a lot of 2/3s for 2 in space or 1/3s for 2 in space, which is quite a few of. So Fireball is going to be extremely relevant in those situations, but even if you don't use the ambushes, the 3/3 for 2 is great. So it will force you, of course, to use your Kazuda ability to be able to not take damage on it, but sometimes you can just afford to take a damage or two. It's not a big deal, depending on the matchup. Then we got our 3-drop. So on the 3-drop, we got a Contracted Hunter. 3/3 for 2 ambush is great against many decks. Once again, against Sabine, it's very good. You'll be able to ambush into an enemy unit, you kill that unit, your Contracted Hunter stays alive and represents a huge threat, and then you can just turn off the ability using Kazuda. This one is a lot more, you really do need to use Kazuda's ability very aggressively on it to be able to play, because otherwise it just dies. But it's just a really relevant card. It's really nice to have this as an option. We only play this as a 2-of because at least 2 in the main deck, we have 1/3 one in the sideboard, because there are quite a few decks that either don't run any small units that are really relevant to kill with Contracted Hunter, or they just play in space, or they don't play any unit, or they play a control deck. So in this case, the card just becomes a 4/4 for 3, which is fine, but it's not amazing. So 2 in the main deck, 1 in the side, that's basically all we play that. Falcon is absolutely amazing in this deck. It's one of the best cards in the deck. It's great, obviously, with it's great combo with the new Han Solo. It's also obviously great to be able to deploy your leader on it. So then, even if you start the turn without a space unit, you can still play Falcon, deploy your leader out of nowhere, and just hit for a lot of damage. The fact that we can turn off the Falcon tax using Kazuda is extremely relevant. Main Falcon is by far one of the best yellow-white aggro card in the entire game, and in this deck it's even better than that because we can turn off the downside. I would say Kazuda is actually the best Falcon deck in the entire game, even better than in a hand deck, in my opinion. Then we got a Stolen AT-Hauler. So AT-Hauler is really great because he's a massive space unit that is for a lot of decks can be very difficult to defeat. And after that, you can basically play a pilot on it, which makes him even more difficult to defeat. At least very difficult to defeat in one hit. And the thing is, like, if your opponent is not capable of killing the AT-Hauler in one hit, you can simply just turn off the when defeated effect, which means that even if you want to manage to kill it, it won't be able to play it on his side, which means that the card becomes just a 3/5 for 5, a 4/5 for 3 without downside. So against many decks, against aggressive decks, or simply against decks in general that are not capable of killing in one hit, which there's quite a few of, the card is really great. It's one of the best space units you can play. It's a very sticky space unit that you can play pilots on and put tremendous pressure on your opponent. However, of course, it's very bad against decks that are able to kill it in one hit, because all they have to do is just take the initiative and just kill it, and they can kill it before you get the chance to turn off the downside. So don't play this card against every deck. You have to be very mindful against what kind of deck you're playing against, so you have to think about what kind of removal they have. And usually blue decks, it's a bad idea to play a Stolen AT-Hauler most of the time. Against other decks, it's a different story. So it's not good against everything, but it's so good against a deck that it's good against, that we definitely want this. Obviously, there's be a situation where your opponent can kill it and steal it anyway. We have a few ways around this. Notably, if you play a new adventure, and you go, so opponent kill your Stolen AT-Hauler, then play him for free. Then you can basically just play a new adventures, and that will basically blink this Stolen AT-Hauler, and then you'll be able to bring it back on your side, which is very cool. So that's for 2 resources, you basically kill the AT-Hauler of your opponent and put it back under your control in one action. That is really strong, and that's a very strong turnaround. And obviously, most of the time, you can turn off the downside with Kazuda. So it's a really excellent card in this deck, as you can imagine. Then we got the 4-drops. So in the 4-drops, we run 2 copies of Kira. Kira she's very useful because I mean she's one of the best yellow white card in the entire game. She's almost an including almost every yellow white card. She comes to play, will turn off the most powerful card of your opponent deck, and can really mess up with your opponent plans, and as well as putting a very difficult to kill body on the board. So she's really wonderful. We played so at the beginning I was playing 3 Kira, and then obviously the unique rules. I wanted to go for a 2-1 split, so I went for a 2-1 split Kira Ahsoka, so 2 Kira and 1 Ahsoka. Just because of the unique rule, having multiple Kiras in hand can be awkward. Ahsoka, so, and also if you have both in hand, at least you get the options to play which one you prefer. Generally speaking, I find Kira better in aggressive deck because games are very short and you want to be able to stop the most important card of your opponent's hand. While Ahsoka, she's more kind of like a value game. She's obviously very strong in combination with 4-Thor, which we don't play. So basically, between since we don't have any force synergies, we don't have, and since Ahsoka is more of a value play rather than just a tempo play, I tend to prefer Kira. Ahsoka is amazing if you are guaranteed to exhaust a unit as she comes into play. Like she comes to play and she exhausts something, then Ahsoka becomes like amazing. But that is not guaranteed, so it's a little bit of kind of an awkward a play sometimes. So I do prefer Kira over Ahsoka most of the time, but there's a few cases I like Ahsoka, so I went for like a 2-1 split. Yeah, so I don't know why we're here. Okay, so in the 5 drops now, we got into the Cantina Bouncer, the double classic, double yellow card, puts a body on the floor on the floor and returns a non-leader unit. Very useful. Bounces effect are very powerful when there's so many like pilots, vehicle pilots around, and very large or like very large sentinel units. Cantina Bouncer can just bounce them away, and that's just really strong. Then we got Han Solo, obviously. So Han Solo is a flexible either 4/5 for 5 ambush, which we rarely use. Most of the time we're going to be trying to use it as a pilot, a way to put more pressure on the opponent, makes up our vehicle a lot more difficult to kill, and we get to attack with it right away. We do play both Falcon. We play the Falcon Pistol Drone, the 3/4 for 3, and we also play the 5/5 for 5. We're not playing the new Falcon, the brand new Falcon, because I just saw that I had enough 3-drop in space, and also because I think this can be very susceptible to ping plus stack in town. So I decided to not play it. It is definitely a consideration, though, so a card that you can consider playing if you want. But for now, I've been really pretty much enjoying just playing those, only those 2 Falcons. So yeah, very flexible cards. Puts a lot of pressure, puts a lot of stats on the units. Even if opponent deals with it, you still got to attack with it. So it's immediate value. So that's very good. Then we got the Mandalorian, another 5-drop. This one we are much happier playing it for is units. It's a unit that actually most of the time we prefer to play as a 5/6 for 4. Generally speaking, we're going to put some pressure in space. So then having this unit that can just come in on the ground and just completely stop the opponent on the ground, that's very good. And it also is a huge body, it's a 5/6. If your opponent doesn't kill with a kill, it's going to swing and deal a lot of damage. And obviously we have the option of playing it as a pilot, +3/+1 and exhaust. It's another option, it's another flexible card. It's, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons to be playing double yellow. The Mandalorian is such a massive tempo swing, and it's exactly what this deck wants in the later stage of the game. Then we got the Minion Falcon. So this card may sound a little bit expensive, but there are really a lot of matchups in which we tend to we can run out of gas. Notably with Quinlan with all those discard thing. So having like a big threat that we can play from our resource pile is very useful. And once again, it's a Falcon, so it has the synergy with Han Solo, which is great. We played, so if I'm not mistaken, so we played 2 in the main deck, yeah. So then we have 2 copies of a New Adventure. So New Adventure is really the kind of card that I really thought was going to be amazing, and then the more I play it, the less I like it. But if there's one deck in which this card is very good, it is in this deck. So in this deck, it does a lot of things. I'm once going to pull the deck list to show you all the great synergy it has. So it obviously does very well with any of our ambush units. So you can actually bring it back to play, heal, and then get to ambush right away, kill another unit, so we can use it as a removal. We can one of the best play you can make with it is to blink your own stolen ATL if your opponent take control of it. You can play it's relatively situational, but you play it on your opponent's side and you get to get it back into play. We can blink Ahsoka, we can blink Cantina Bouncer, we can blink Mandalorian to double exhaust, and we can also blink our Falcon to be able to put the Falcon back and just attack again. So it's a finisher, and obviously you can play it on the opponent units as well, as act sort of a, it's like kind of a bamboozle, because it will effectively exhaust the enemy unit, and then it will also remove all the upgrades that it has on it. And it's actually, the upgrades are not coming back in the opponent's hands, they actually fall off, because the unit is basically bounced. So it's actually better than bamboozle in this case. I mean, inconvenience compared to bamboozle is like it doesn't work on leaders, and it also costs 2, there's no way to play it for free. But I still think it's an amazing card. I think it's better than bamboozle. If you're wondering why we're not playing bamboozle on the main deck, that's because we play a new adventure, which is a far better card. So yeah, a lot of utility for this card, really, really nice. Moving on, we got obviously the Surprise Strike, which is an absolute auto-include for any aggressive deck that plays yellow, because it's such an important card to be able to finish the game off. Also can be used, of course, to get really, really important trades at very key moments in the game. 2 copies of Waylay, once again, to get rid of the large units, especially in early stage of the game, or to prevent like a pilot-led unit to get out of control. And obviously, of course, the most important card of the deck, the Cunning, the main reason to be playing double yellow, the ultimate temple card, the best temple cards in the entire game. The ability, so the way that you want to use Cunning in any deck really is to try as much as possible to find an opening where you know that you can give the +4 attack bonus to one of your units. Because obviously, the +4 attack bonus is really the strongest ability, but obviously you need to be able to land this knowing that there's nothing that can happen to the unit that can boost it, because it's not an attack. It's a boost, and then you need to be able to attack after this. Thankfully, there are several abilities on the other card that can allow you to protect the unit, and depending on what kind of deck you're playing against, and you know what kind of threats that can potentially block you, you can make this play, and in relatively safely. So obviously, the most common thing you're gonna do with this card is you're gonna exhaust 2 units, and you're gonna give +4 attack with your unit. Exhausting the units not only, of course, is a massive tempo swing, it's also a protection for the unit that's getting the buff. Usually, you want to have multiple units on the board, so then you can attack with a few units, see what's gonna happen, let your opponent use his resource, and once he's tapped out, then you can just go Cunning and you can do crazy stuff. The bounce is very useful, and the random discard is the one that you use the least often, but it can also be useful if you're running against someone that doesn't play any units. A +4 attack, random discard, and hope that you discard the removal that would have answered Cunning. And that's just is just an amazing card. And it's one of the most important cards of the deck, obviously. Then we got Outshot DR44 Blaster. This card is just an auto-include, in my opinion, almost any aggressive yellow deck that plays a certain amount of ground units, which you do play. Even though we have a lot of space units, we also have a lot of ground units. So being able to give those ground units this +2 attack, permanent +2 attack bonus out of nowhere from the resource pile, once again, it's very useful. It's more options for the deck. Allows to make sure that you always, no matter what position you are, no matter how shitty your hand is, you always have some good plays to make. And that just is very, very useful. So this is such a great card, and it's really, really good in this deck, as you can imagine. So now we'll move on here to the sideboard here. So I'll start first with 2 copies of Jam Communication. This card is mostly an anti-control card. Why Jam Communication over Spark of Rebellion? Very simple, is because it's meant to be a sideboard card that we're going to bring in its control. So in this case, the fact that you can only discard events is not really that big of a deal, because it's meant to be used specifically against a deck that we know always going to have a couple of events in hand. And the fact that it costs 1 is extremely relevant, because it allows us to discard something and then develop a threat at the same time, which is just incredibly important. So that's why we like Jam Communication over Spark of Rebellion in the context of an aggressive deck that wants to be able to disturb the opponent in hand and still be able to put the pressure at the same time. Then we got 2 copies of Bamboozle. A new adventure does perform a similar job as Bamboozle, but Bamboozle has the advantage of being able to play for free and can also exhaust enemy leaders. So Bamboozle is against certain matchup is going to be better. So we like to play both, and also we like to keep you to put your opponent take your opponent by surprise and catching out of nowhere by being able to play this card for free. So we get 2 of those cards. Then we got 3 Body Rook, which is the best card we could possibly play against control. Putting a threat on the board and discarding your opponent removal at the same time is incredibly effective. It might have been one of the big reasons to be double cunning is Body Rook in the sideboard against control is really strong. We have 1 more copies of Contracted Hunters in the sideboard, mostly against ground-based aggro deck. It's very good in those cases. We got 2 Change of Hearts against decks who like to play very large stuff that we want to steal. So basically, ramp decks mostly. So yeah, kind of another avenue to finish the game. And that's basically our sideboard here. So if I go back to the deck list, so we got mostly against aggro, we're going to be going 2 Bamboozle, Contracted Hunter, and against control, we're going to have 3 Body Rooks, 2 Jam Communication. Against mid-range or mid-range control, we're going to have Change of Hearts. That's sort of what the sideboard is kind of like going for. Yeah, so that's sort of how we operate with the sideboard. So you can see we have a very complete deck, a deck that can deal with a wide amount of different things. It's all about having the right cards and right matchup, which is obviously not always easy. The fact that we play 30 HP base and the fact that we have a lot of ways to kind of tempo things out means that the deck does very well against aggressive decks in general. Like this is a really good deck against aggro. So if you're in a field where there's a lot of Sabine, loads of Han ECL, Han 2 ECL, if you are in a field where there's loads of even I would say loads of Gar Saxon, like Kazuda is going to do very well against those kind of aggressive decks because it's a deck that is able to put a lot of pressure. Putting these giant space units like a Falcon with like a Han on it, or like a Stolen ATLer with a Han on it, or even a Kazuda on it. Those kind of like giant space threats, they're not easy to deal with for aggro at all. Aggro simply just cannot deal with such things. And we just go Cunning, Mandalorian, we can just tap the entire board, give huge attack bonus to units and just kill them very quickly. And because we got 30 HP base against 25, we have a huge hedge on this as well. So that's really good. The other great matchup for the deck is going to be control decks. I think this deck does very well against control because we have loads of hand disruptions. We have Kira, Ahsoka, we have the Body Rooks in the sideboard, we get Jam Communication, we can blink our Body Rook to get even more hand disruption. So our deck is, especially after sideboard, the control matchup is very favorable because we have so much hand disruption. We have a lot of small threats. We have loads of ways to play around Power Dark Side by playing cards like R2D2, Leia. We can kind of like play around Power Dark Side. And then when we run out of gas, we have loads of Smuggle to get more threats. And a threat that is not answered, we can go Surprise Strike, deal a bunch of damage, and really punish units that don't get answered by dealing loads of damage. So I think this deck is really good against aggro. We can also we have unit that comes to play ready, like Falcons, that also are very helpful. So I think the deck does quite well against control. Because we are exactly what control hates, which is basically really aggressive, and really disruptive at the same time. Not only that, the most popular control deck right now is Bosk, and Kazuda can literally use his ability to turn off Bosk ability, the Bosk bounties. So basically, bounties are effectively very difficult to use for Bosk. Because we can turn them off with Kazuda, which is another great asset. So yeah, overall I would say Kazuda is really good against those kind of extreme, like the very aggressive or very control. It's also quite good against the slower mid-range deck, the mid-range control, the mid-range that are really playing a lot of like the hand greens. I think are easy to deal with because we got loads of bounce. So double yellow Han has very good matchup against Luke because of all these bounce effects. So the Sentinels are difficult to use. While Kazuda yellow is going to have a good matchup against that for the exact same reason. So what are the struggles for the deck? I think the struggle for the decks are mostly Cad Bane and Quinlan. And the reason for that is because those two decks are capable of pinging your units early and just killing them very early on. And if you cannot stick a unit on the board early on in the game, then you cannot play your pilots, and if you can't play your pilots, you can't really just kind of go out of control. So there's certain hands that are very difficult to beat if you're playing against Cad Bane or Quinlan. So those would be, if I had to mention like the two worth matchup for the deck, I would mention those two decks. And yeah, this is it. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about the card that I've decided to not include in the deck. So just anticipate some of the question. First of all, we're going to do a couple of mulligans. So we're going to draw 6 cards here. So this is an example of opening hand. This is a great hand. So basically, we're going to be able to start with double 1-drop opening. We can go Leia plus Greedo turn 1. And then turn 2, we're going to do Falcon. Falcon then we can turn off using Kazuda, so we don't have to play Falcon tax. So then the turn after, we can either play Ahsoka or we can play Cunning. So in this case, I would probably resource the Mandalorian, and then depending on the matchup, I would think whether I would probably resource the Ahsoka. Probably, I would almost always don't want to resource the Cunning. If I'm playing against Control, maybe I would resource the Cunning. If I'm playing against anything else, I'll probably resource the Ahsoka. But this is a great hand. So draw another 6. Okay, this hand is not bad. We get ourselves a turn 1 L337. We're going to be resourcing the Turncoat and the DR-44 Blaster. We can go turn 1 L3, turn 2 AT Hauler, turn 3 Kira. We can protect our AT Hauler by playing Kira, naming whatever can kill the AT Hauler. If we're being his control, obviously we're going to try to avoid playing the AT Hauler. Hopefully we can draw like another 3 drops. That can happen. But if we don't have any 3 drops to play against control, we might play the DR-44 Blaster instead, which is a fine 3 drop. You play this on L337, which is very likely to survive at this point, and we can put a bunch of pressure. Okay, clear, one more hand. Okay. Okay, this hand is a bit worse because we only have a 1 drop with we don't have double 1-drop opening. But I feel like it's a fine hand because go Turncoat turn 1, then Falcon turn 2, and then we can go like Mandalorian. So it's not a bad hand. It's not a great hand, but I would probably mulligan, try to find something better. But it's a playable hand. Okay, mulligan. Mulligan, the essence is much better. We get Fireball turn 1. Then turn 2, we can either go Leia, untap 1, L337, so we have to put 2 smaller threats. Or we can even go Leia plus Mandalorian. That also works. Leia untap, play Mandalorian. Or we can just play Mandalorian, tap the other units depending on the situation. So I think this hand is quite good. My resource, depending on the matchup, you resource L330. You might actually prefer to open an L337 instead of Fireball. It really depends on the matchup. It also depends a lot on if you have the initiative or if you don't have the initiative. But this is a really perfectly keepable hand. So draw 6 card. Okay, so this one we do have double 1-drop. Unfortunately, they are the R2s, so not ideal. But we can resource R2 versus DR-44 Blaster. So we can go turn 1 R2, turn 2 Falcon, and then we can go Mandalorian or DR-44 Blaster. I think it's a fine hand. It's not amazing, but it's a fine hand. So that's pretty much how the kind of opening hand you're looking for is either double 1-drop opening, or basically a Fireball is sort of like the ideal beginning for this deck to operate on. So different cards that you might want to consider. So there's the Swoop Down, which is a card that can be useful, but generally speaking, we are an aggressive deck, so we're not really looking to kill enemy units. The only card that you would really want to use Swoop Down on would be like a Client, to get rid of a Client. This card is really efficient. But in any other case, with Client, we can basically turn off bounties with our Kazuda, so Client is not even that good. So most of the time, I would just Snoop Down is just not really that great of a card. Wolfpack Escort is another 1-drop in space, but it's very, very fragile. So this is why I don't like it so much, is because 1 health units, very, very easy to kill in this meta. I play Greedo because he's such a great card, but Wolfpack Escort doesn't make up for that, unfortunately. Breaking In, if you're playing it, so got a lot of people who play a lot of shielded units, a lot of Sentinels, Breaking can be useful. I just find that usually bounce effects are doing a good enough job good enough job that you don't really need to play that. Same for clear the field. Generally speaking, the things you want to bounce are relatively large units, so usually the bounce can be useful. You could play clear the field instead of Waylay, but because you're already playing the Cantina Bouncer, if you're playing like the full package of Cantina Bouncer, then maybe you can justify playing clear the field. But I prefer the flexibility of Waylay personally. Crafty Smugglers can be quite nice alongside the F337s to have like more sticky threats. For this specific deck, I've decided to go for the double 1-drop opening. But if you're going for, you want to emphasize on 2 drops, then Crafty Smuggler is going to be your next best thing. Fugitive Wookiees is a bit of a trap, so yes, technically you can turn off the bounty with Kazuda, making it like a 3/3 for 2. But the problem is that if your opponent has the initiative, he can just kill the Wookiee and then exhaust another unit, and that's such a huge blow to do that, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So for that reason, I really don't like Fugitive Wookiee. I think the downside is too bad. The bounty on card spacer is fine because worst case your opponent draws a card, that's okay. But in an aggressive deck, having your opponent just getting a free exhaust is just too much. Spark of Rebellion, I already talked about it. I think that in an aggressive deck, spending an entire turn to play a Spark is very annoying. You can't really afford to spend an entire turn just disrupting. So I prefer like to play some jam communication in sideboard against decks that runs a lot of events, because at least I can play a jam and play a threat alongside it. A Spark of Rebellion, usually you can't do that because it costs 2. For Million Falcon, this card is, if you want to have more 3-drops in space, I think Million Falcon is your best option. The fact that you get +1 attack for pilots is very relevant, and the fact that it's a Falcon combines very well with Han is really good. I didn't feel the need for this deck, but you can justify it if you find the space for it. And then finally, Plo Koon. Plo Koon is a really great mid-range card, but it's not really an aggressive card because obviously it's like 5-drop. You kill something, you leave something back on the board, but then obviously you need to have coordinate for this to be useful. We play pilots, so it's not always easy for us to get coordinates. And it's not like our leaders deploying on the same turn as Plo Koon comes out. So it's not always easy to get coordinate with this deck. And even if you do, I would rather just... we already have loads of very strong 5-drops, like the Mandalorians and Cantina Bouncer, that I usually find them to be more reliable. So you can justify Plo Koon, but personally I found just to be... I just didn't find the space for it. I would just rather play Mandalorians and Cantina Bouncers most of the time. And yeah, the last card I wanted to talk about that I forgot to put in the list, I'm gonna find it. It is the Guerrilla Soldier. The Guerrilla Soldier. This card is actually very neat in this deck, and you can totally justify finding a spot for it. Once again, it's just a little bit tight to find like the space for another 3-drops when you're already playing HE Aller, you're already playing Falcon, you're already playing the Contracted Hunter. So it's hard to find more space for more 3-drops, but it's a card that you can definitely justify. It's very aggressive, which the deck likes very much. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for the deck. So let me know. So this deck is not budget friendly at all. It's very expensive to put together. You need the 3 Cunnings, you need the 3 Falcons, you need the 3 HE Aller, you need the 3 Han Solos. You also play some Change of Hearts in the sideboard, so loads of legendaries, and those are not cheap legendaries. Falcon's one of the most expensive legendaries in the game. And so yeah, it's not an easy deck to put together, but if you can put it together, it's really strong. It's a very strong deck. So it's a deck also is very fun to play. It has loads of different options. It plays a lot of unusual cards that no other deck can play, like HE Aller, a new adventure, Fireball, Contracted Hunter. So it plays a lot of interesting cards that no other deck can play. And it's very fun because there's loads of different options, different line of play you can take. It's very aggressive. It makes for very short games as well. So it's a very fun deck to play, and I think it's really good. against a certain type of meta. So if you are in a meta that is very aggro, very control, I think this is great deck to pick up. If you're more in the mid-range, where there's a lot of coin lands of Cat Banes, then maybe that's not the deck you want to play. So here, so just for the little shout out here, so you can currently find the Stolen ATLer for €9 on Card Market, which I think is fairly reasonable. Yeah. Thank you so much for following this video. If you have any suggestions of how you would want to improve this deck, feel free to let me know, and we'll be able to keep the discussion going in the comments below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.